Hello and welcome back to yet another episode of Let's Talk version of the BTP Beyond the Present podcast. I am here joined by Dan yet again. Hey there, Dan. How are you?
Hey there, Woody man. Life is wonderful. Glad to be here with you.
Amazing. Glad to have you here with us, man. How's life? How's everything?
Well, life is quite wonderful, and we're trying our very best. Today, things are a lot better in business. I don't know, just one day perhaps, but we are doing our very best to stay afloat. And speaking of, since we're going to talk about the peace of mind, I felt a lot more peaceful today than yesterday. So I'm guessing things are quite cool right now, and look forward to things that are going to be even better. Other than that, of course, I just heard about the op-ed book about Donald Trump, Fear, which is going to come out next week. Pretty excited about that one, basically, and could put the guy on the pathway towards impeachment. Let's see what happens.
Interesting. Yeah, you know what? Since the beginning of things, it was a lot of roller coaster of saying, okay, this is the end. Like, this is going to make him, like, really squeeze him or whatever. But honestly, I'm losing hope on that. I mean, not hope in a sense that I don't want bad things to happen, of course. But then at the same time, I want accountability, right? And I don't feel there are enough accountability currently in the current government.
Dude, I mean, let's be honest, man. I mean, I liked this gentleman as a business person. He's still one of my business icons. I really like him as a business person. But the fact of the matter is, a chef got to cook, and a business person got to do business, and a politician should be a politician.
Right.
I really don't think that Donald Trump, despite the fact that he's a tremendously successful business person and somebody that I truly admire and learn from. I read his book, The Art of the Deal. Pretty amazing book, by the way.
Right.
I don't think he's a good politician, and I don't think that he has helped America to become great again. It's more like make America hate again and just go down all the time.
Right.
So U.S. is now losing its trust among all other nations. And in the modern world, it's no longer about just who's got the bigger muscles, dude. I mean, like, we don't live in that caveman era anymore. Now, that stuff works pretty well in relationships, particularly in romantic relationships. But in the complex world of politics these days, I just see no reason in people just throwing guns around and say, oh, yeah, I'm the big shepherd. I don't know. I can do all these things. I got look at my stick. I killed these two wolves. Life is pretty cool. I can kill you too. This is just nonsense, really, from my perspective. And I think we have to move on from that hunter-gatherer mindset to a more modern mindset where power comes from cooperation, not from force.
Right. No, I would agree with you in the sense of how modern politics has changed. And yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, today we're not here to discuss about that.
That's
it's just always a good thing to, talk about random stuff to, catch up with current trends in different areas.
That's right.
Anyways, back to our original topic. So the topic, as you mentioned, is to how to stop overthinking and have a little bit of peace of mind, perhaps, especially in tough times, because, well, that's the tendency in tough times. It's easier for everybody to overthink, whether you overthink or not. Regardless, it makes it easier for you to overthink because there's so many things going on. There's so many things that you can focus on.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, and I used to be really bad at that. I used to be, one of those people who overthink a lot of things a lot. Like, for example, let's just give you a simple example. You said you for example call somebody or send a text or something in the context of romantic relationships, and then you don't hear back for a while, and your mind wonders what's happening.
Dude, trust me, it's quite normal. First of all, about that one, this whole not answering thing, that's quite normal, especially among men, basically at the beginning of the whole process of learning how to date women and whatnot. Because the problem with that is, for example, think of this case, like you text a girl, she doesn't respond.
Yep.
What does the guy say? The guy says, well, probably she rejected me. And what does that mean? Again, this is an internal process. This is an internal dialogue. And then she says, well, it's because probably I'm not attractive enough. And then why aren't you attractive enough? Well, probably because I'm a piece of shit. And whatever, like, you see, it's an internal dialogue, which ultimately leads to the guy realizing I'm not worthy of love. And that makes him feel very bad, which is why he's scared, like, please respond to my text and prove to me that I'm not such a piece of shit. And ultimately, this creates that inner fear. But the good news is once you develop authentic self-confidence, and trust me, they're talking about, having peace of mind. I really believe that the ultimate medicine for peace of mind is self-confidence. No amount of security. You can have billions of dollars literally in cash, in your safes, in your house right now. You can have the biggest and the coolest bodyguards who are protecting you 24/7. You can live in an island where it's full time protected by you, and then you can just have all the things going for you. But if you don't have self confidence, you will never feel any amount of peace of mind. On the other hand, you could be in the middle of a war zone with bullets firing around everywhere, and you are literally seconds away from a very high chance of death. And if you have self-confidence, you just keep going forward, man. You keep shooting, and without any problem, you eventually get the mission done. So ultimately, in life, it's not just about where you are or how much security you have. It's really about self-confidence, and that's a great way to start the show with that example you gave us, the listeners right now, because that's exactly what happens. I mean, think of this, dude. 100 years ago, young people basically would run towards Normandy and whatnot. They were trying to capture. It was World War II, and they were almost getting closer to an absolute death, and they were not afraid. And now people nowadays, they look at their social media like, oh my gosh, I didn't get enough likes today. I feel like so bad. Or like this guy. we're literally getting upset about bullshit that has no meaning. And ultimately, it's because of what? Lack of self-confidence. And once you work on your self-confidence, and we're going to talk about that later, hopefully,
for sure.
It really boosts your level of peace of mind, because ultimately you believe that the source of security, safety, and certainty in life is you, not the environment, not chances, but you. No matter how tough things get, even if thousands of girls reject me and don't answer my text, even if thousands of clients don't want to do business with me, even if I'm in the middle of a terrible economic condition with a very high risk of going bankrupt, I can handle it. There's a voice inside that comes and says, dude, move, I'll handle it. And that voice is the voice of self-confidence. Once you have it, you'll have peace of mind, even if you're in the middle of a war zone. And without it, in the most secure circumstances, you'd still not be able to feel any sense of peace of mind.
Precisely. And when you went mentioning social media, something else kind of came to my mind, which I want to take a tiny deviation on the subject, which is related, of course. Like, you know what? Again, with the concept of overthinking, and I'll get back to that, tie it down completely. But like you go on social media, obviously it's a very polished version of everybody's life. I don't want to say it's a lie per se, because it might be a portion of their lives.
Let me tell you something. It is a lie in 89% of the cases.
Well, yeah. And even the ones that are not, my point is, they're a very selective part of everybody's life. Nobody's always, like, no matter who you are, what you do, nobody's always that happy, that glamorous all the time.
Exactly.
You have bad hair day. Unless you're like me, you don't have a hair. That's a different story.
Dude, for you, it's always a hair day, man. Awesome.
So
you always look fantastic.
Precisely. So points being, a lot of people go on social medias, look at these, and they compare their entire life into snippets of other people's lives. Let's say they're actually real. Let's say all of it is real, but it's a very selective real part of it, even if it's all real. And then you start comparing
which probably
yourself.
Is not. In most cases, you're right.
Yeah. And you start comparing yourself to those conditions, and you're like, oh, everybody's like, these people are living the life, and I am here.
I'm falling behind.
I'm miserable.
You.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very natural, because we get our sense of where we are compared to our society, compared to where we are in our society. So yeah, it's a tough life. Even if you are very aware of the concept, you might start overthinking. So, like, you can see how overthinking here is also causing problems. My concern is not right now social media. We're not here to talk about that. We can talk about it later, maybe. But as another example of how overthinking is causing many problems. So do you first of all, I noticed that at least on Instagram, you don't follow a lot of people. You have, I think, 5 people that you follow, and that's it.
Exactly. And people often ask me why that's the case. Some accuse me of being this huge jerk, egotistic maniac or something. Of course, really? I take that. I don't really care what others think. But ultimately, the number one reason is very simple. Is because I think of social media as a place where I prefer to just mainly allow others to understand who I am.
Sure.
And more importantly, as I mentioned earlier, I told you, 99% of the stuff that is on social media is fake. And the ones that are not fake have no value for me. I mean, quite frankly speaking, as you know, as you've seen on my Instagram as well, I believe in education. I believe in the fact that we should be educated. And because of this, I prefer to not waste my time on social media. I don't give a damn if this guy had a hamburger for lunch and then traveled to this nice place and took some freaking selfies. I believe in return on investment, okay? And I want my Instagram to be an example for others to follow, because I want to understand that they're not supposed to just waste their time and stoop around and try to gossip around people's back and see their lives. Instead, they should be educated, right? Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I found most social media to be almost completely devoid of any educational content, quite frankly, useless. And which is why I simply do not follow most people, because I know that I'm not going to find anything there useful that will teach me something new. And instead, I want others to understand that social media can be used as a means of educating others. For example, whenever I see a photo on social media that has no text all over it, or like it has no description, that's just a total waste of time, right?
Sure.
So because of this, most of my photos contain some sort of text or material, because guys, life is short. You got to learn. I mean, we recently talked with a friend of mine about the importance of education and learning and being a learning machine. So you want to actually live in a way where you are growing. And I find social media to be completely a waste of time. And I think of myself as almost entirely a producer on social media. Do not want to consume. I do not like what I see on social media, quite frankly. I do not like at all what I see on social media. And I hope that some people find, this medium to be used in a different way, which is exactly why I do not follow almost anyone. Now, I do have a lot of friends, but the problem is if you follow one person, that's another problem that I have, because some people somehow know me, and if I follow one person, the other says, well, why don't you follow me? I mean, not long ago, actually, one of my friends asked me, dude, listen, man, I mean, you're my friend. Why don't you follow me? I said, dude, if I follow you, then I have thousands of other friends. So I got to follow all of them as well. Now, all of a sudden, when I open my Instagram, I have to see thousands of useless, basically, images, right? So it's best not to do that. And it's best to not. So I love you, man. But if I follow you, then I got to follow 1,000 others. And that's just simply not possible for me. And which is why I prefer to actually not do that. This is going to create a sense of fairness as well, because let's be honest, people do get jealous sometimes. Mm-hmm. Boys or girls, doesn't really matter. So in that case, to keep myself on the safe side, just keep just 5 people that I follow. And truth be told, by the way, I don't even look at their messages and posts very often that much. Truth be told, there are occasionally some posts that I especially love from Gary Vee, who is a tremendous social media icon and a great mentor that has helped me a lot to shape how I post on social media. And other than that, of course, Grant Cardone, which you and I both are a student of and learn a lot from. And of course, the third and fourth are Brian Tracy, as well as Tony Robbins, which have been my classic mentors since a very young age. And the last one, of course, basically is a Russian business person, Maxim, who is the head of the Millionaires Club in Moscow, which I love as well, because he has a great perspective regarding finance and personal finance. So that's pretty much it. And beyond that, I prefer not to spend much time on social media. I prefer to actually produce content instead of being a user and consumer on that social media.
Right, and I completely understand your perspective, and I understand why you do it, and it's perfectly fine. On the other hand, and just to give another perspective here, I do follow a lot of people, and for various reasons. But the good thing is I don't really spend a lot of time on social media, which is actually very important, because I want my time to be productive. So even if I'm on social media, I want it to be productive, and most of the time it's not. So the time that I'm on, as soon as I see the productivity is going very low, and I'll just quit and do something else. But that was just another perspective on the matter. Anyways, so going forward, so that helps you, and with my method helps me to basically naturally stop overthinking. I don't have to actively put myself in the situation to stop myself. But like, for example, you don't have anybody to follow to overthink or not. So it doesn't even matter. It's not an issue. So that's obviously one way to help your overthinking situation. Everybody should just go to the root of the problem and eliminate it. For example, if you're comparing yourself to a lot of people on social media, just don't go on social media. Very simple.
Or simply don't follow all kinds of people.
Or seriously. Don't follow. Yeah, sure. That's also, yeah.
Because the people that I follow on social media, all 5 of them, I know their entire lives, literally. I've read all of their books. Every single one who's there, I've read their books, I know their entire lives. So And I know that they have a similar approach to life that I have, basically. So there's no point of jealousy. There's no
Right.
point. I mean, they are my teachers. I mean,
Precisely.
I literally respect them, as I see them as my teachers. So when you follow a teacher figure or a master figure, basically, it's a very different story, because it allows you to somehow feel quite humbled by them, and of course to be in touch, to somehow see how their teachings affect their lives as well as yours. So because of this, it's much better to really, I mean, if you follow a lot of people and then you're seeing all those fake images of people having fun, driving their rented Ferraris, and then going to those, for example, cruise travels bought with 85% discount because it's a once a year kind of thing. I mean, ultimately, people don't know these details, and just, oh man, dude, this guy's driving a Ferrari and is going on a cruise ship all the time, dude. My life sucks. I got nothing. I'm sitting home eating Cheetos. So because of this, ultimately, they feel what I mentioned earlier. They start losing their self-confidence, and dude, once that self-confidence goes down, everything goes down. And all you got to do is, whatever you do is trying to prove that, oh my goodness, I have some self-confidence. Please, the world, tell me I'm not a worthless piece of shit. And of course, the world will always tell you that you are a piece of shit once you want to tell you the otherwise. It's just the nature of the world. I don't know why. So this is what happens. And this becomes a vicious cycle that continuously reduces your self-esteem and makes you even more and more dependent on approval. And eventually, this leads to complete depression, anxiety disorders, and so many other problems that could be simply prevented if you just focus your attention on understanding that, dude, it doesn't matter what others are doing. Good for them. My job is me, not them. My job is to get better. Yes, this guy's, let's even assume that they're super rich and they're doing all these things. My job is to get my life better. Good for them. Good for these. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, these are mostly fake, but let's assume they're not.
Right.
Good for them. Good for them for having all these super hot cars and doing all these travels around the world on the cruise ships and not having to work, and they can just work 1 hour per week and it's all fine. Good for them. I'm going to work 20 hours basically a day if I have to, just to double my income, which is nothing in comparison with his income. But that's progress, dude. That's progress in my life. And ironically, once your focus is on making progress and making your life better without caring about how others are doing things or how far ahead they are, you actually start developing genuine self-esteem, because now your focus is on making progress, is on developing yourself, not watching others go forward. You actually start doing this. And that's why I don't like spectatorism at all, which is why I do not take part in most sporting events where you have to sit and watch a movie or watch a soccer match or football match or whatever, because I'm not a spectator, dude. I'm a player. I got to be on the field. If I'm not on the field, I won't look at it. And I see a lot of people sometimes on the airplane. They look outside of the airplane and just like, wow, the clouds. Dude, you're not a pilot. Your time is running out. Do something useful in that goddamn seat that you're sitting right now, and just listen to a friggin' podcast, improve your abilities. Do the things that make your life better. Do not watch others make their lives better. You make your life better. And once you do this, bro, all that overthinking disappears. Because why? You don't have time to overthink.
Right.
Because you look at yourself and say, I'm nobody. I'm really nobody, which means you have a lot of work to do. Congratulations. You have a lot to do, which means you have zero time to overthink, which is much better, because people who have a lot to do, ironically, start overthinking again, because suddenly their life gets so better. Like these guys work for 40 years and all of a sudden they're like multi-millionaire or whatever and have everything taken care of. And then, dude, what's the meaning of life? Like that voice starts kicking in because they have nothing else to do, right? So you want to be on that constant, never-ending path of personal development. Right. And the key is, do not compare yourself with anybody but yourself. Good for them, whatever they have. Who are you? What do you have? And what are you doing with your life? That's what matters. Once you focus on developing yourself and making progress, you're saying, dude, I work at a job that pays, I don't know, $17 an hour, man. And I know this guy on Instagram. This guy is multi-billionaire, man. This guy just spends $1 million per day on his friggin' bodyguards. And I make $17 an hour. Good for them. None of your friggin' business, dude. Make that $17 an hour. Make it $20 an hour. That's progress, dude. You're leveling up. Then make that $20 to $22. The key is this: people don't understand that it's not about getting results in life that makes them excited. It's about making progress. Happiness equals progress. Happiness does not equal results. It equals progress. And once you see that progress in your life, no matter how little and insignificant it might be, and no matter what others think about it and how stupid even it seems to them, you are making progress. And that's what matters. But that's when you stop thinking. That's when you start acting. And that's when you start believing in yourself. That's when you develop genuine self-esteem. That's when you know, dude, if the client doesn't answer my text, who cares? I'll get another client. Fuck that person. I'm going to find somebody else. And that feeling, that voice, that girl didn't answer my text. Well, she probably wasn't a very intelligent girl because she doesn't understand my value. Don't worry. I'm going to find a much better blondie very soon. This is the mindset you want to have. And once you have this mindset, nothing can stop you. There's no inner dialogue that, am I doing the right thing? It says, fucking, let's do it. Let's see what happens. Come on, let's do it. And that state of mind will then allow you to actually get more results. And this, again, just like the last one, which was a vicious cycle where you intensely lost your self-esteem. This is a spiral that is upward, where you just keep building self-esteem and then the better results that you get, you build even more self-esteem, and you keep going up, man. Like nothing can stop you at that point. And that's when you just somehow find complete peace of mind in the middle of chaos. That's what I really believe in. If you have peace of mind when the environment is peaceful, which is why I'm not so much a fan of things like long distance and long-term meditation for hours, and then let's remove all the distractions from your environment and then focus. That bullshit is not for me. Why? Because that's not changing the real issue. Anybody, even and literally, I was talking to you right now, and I hit basically my plates. Maybe you heard the noise. There were some plates around me right now. I was having a snack. And even a frigging glass of water can be calm if you put it in a calm environment, dude. That doesn't require any fucking effort. You really want to be the kind of person who has straight, solid peace of mind in the middle of a war zone with bombs going everywhere. If you are that kind of person, congratulations. You've already been self-actualized, and you are capable of having true self-esteem, and you can really have true peace of mind. True peace of mind is shown when things are critical. When you're losing your shirt, we've already talked about this in the book, The Obstacle's the Way. When everything is going down, there's no hope, and there's no chance, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Dude, when there's no light at the end of the tunnel, turn on the goddamn have a light. And that flashlight comes from you, from inside of you, from your heart, from deep down inside. And guess what? That is called true peace of mind from my perspective.
That's a lot of good points, and I personally don't have anything against those meditation and all those things. It's not for me, honestly, but if it works for somebody, great, just do it. Do whatever works for you. But that's not definitely for me. But when it comes to overthinking, I have one thing that I want to add to that, at least right now, and that is one of the biggest fuels to overthinking and enemies of me and probably a lot of people is having a lot of time. It's having
exactly,
as Grant Cardone would put it. Actually, it's like empty spaces, like white spaces on your calendar, essentially. So you have time to overthink, and in my opinion, more precisely, you have focus to give to overthinking, because essentially we have limited amount of focus. If we are giving our focus to something else, to some particular, developmental progress that we are trying to make, or you were right, I'm making $17 an hour, I'm going to put my focus to make it 20. If I do that, then I don't have that extra focus to give to overthinking.
Exactly, dude. That's precisely what. Another great reason, dude, if you have a lot of time, then of course you have dude, I got nothing. Let me check Instagram for 2.5 hours, see what dude, guess what? What if you only have 1 hour, 30 minutes per day for Instagram? That's exactly what the time that I have. 30 minutes to maximum 1 hour. And guess what? All I can do in that time is to produce content. I have no time to read other people's contents or whatever. So if the less time you have, the happier you live, because the less time you have for things, it means your attention is focused. We, in our previous, talk about the book Flow. So how do you get flow? By focusing your attention on a task that is meaningful. And if you don't have a lot of those things, well, of course, you start overthinking. Again, the same example you gave a great example of the chick not responding. Dude, what if you're in the middle of a friggin' 2,000 things and then suddenly you just realize that she didn't respond to your text.
Oh, actually, that happened to me too.
Seriously, dude, because in that condition, you have no time to even remember, like, oh shit, I'm supposed to respond to that. Like, you don't even remember that, dude, in that condition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the great tools, because if you put your attention and focus on something that is important to you, of course, and is making something happen, then you don't have time to overthink stuff, and essentially you will have peace of mind. I mean, that's where I am, where I find my peace of mind, at least, and ultimately. Regardless of the results, so there are certain tasks that you put your focus to, whether you succeed or fail. It's irrelevant in my opinion, because if I succeed, of course I'll be happy, and I'll gain confidence and all that. I get results, etc. And even if I fail, I see myself as a person that has gathered experience as how to
precisely
not to do.
See, in NLP we say there's no such thing as a failure. There's only feedback.
Yeah.
So go back to the same example. I called a chick, didn't respond to my text. Is that a failure? No, that's a feedback. What does it mean? Not make her attractive enough. Probably I showed too much interest early on. Probably I said something stupid. You think about this, and then you're like, oh my gosh, so what's the reason? So in that condition, there's a feedback. It's negative. So next time, perhaps you'll do it differently. Now, I'm not against basically thinking and learning from your feedback. You're saying, well, dude, you're saying, Daniel, you should never overthink, so I'm not going to think at all. Well, if you don't think at all, then you'd be a freaking dumb, stupid asshole who doesn't know what to do and cannot learn from his mistakes. So, again, I really believe in balance in life. So we are talking about overthinking. Now, some guys are like, dude, man, I just smoke marijuana, get stoned, and I don't think about shit. I don't overthink. So you have a podcast, teach others how not to overthink? Just, you don't need a freaking podcast. All you got is to just smoke some marijuana. That's not the case. So we want to think. We just don't want to overthink. That's the whole balance here. Because, again, there are two extremes. On one extreme, people just don't think at all. They make a freaking stupid mistake. Like, let's say I saw a girl, and I say, hi, girl. How are you doing? My name is Daniel. Can I take your number? Okay. And I get one feedback. What if I see a group of girls, and I go towards them and say, so, girls, which one want to get pregnant? I mean, literally, this is going to be a very different feedback.
Of course, it's going to be a horrible feedback.
If I say, whoa, these girls are so mean, they did not want to talk to me. Well, idiot, because you said something stupid. I'm telling you. Yeah. Right? So this is about studying that feedback, right? So you want to think. You just don't want to overthink. That's the whole difference. Once you find the balance between the two, between overthinking and not thinking at all, that's when life gets much better, because then you get results too. That's real progress. You say, man, it's kind of like, when you're playing video games and you have this hero, like in RPGs, and like you level up. Mm-hmm. So in that moment, when you say, like, dude, what did I say that caused this girl to not react nice and not respond to my text? Again, what do most guys say? Like, this girl's a bitch. This girl doesn't like me. Oh my God, all women are bitches. This girl is full.
Oh yeah, that extrapolating on every single women are bad.
Don't worry, but this is a universal problem, by the way. This is a universal problem. Every guy, trust me. Even I had this problem at some point in my life in the past. So the problem here is, no, dude, that girl is not a bitch. She's just acting like a bitch to you because you don't know how to interest her. Because maybe you don't have anything in common and you still try to, keep pushing this thing through, right? So ultimately, you want to have that mindset. You want to know that you have to study the feedback in order to improve yourself. And anytime you get a bad feedback, you can actually feel like you're leveling up as a hero in the game of your life. And by that leveling up, you feel great, which is why I don't believe in failure. Anytime I hear a no from a client, from a prospect, from a girl, doesn't really matter, from whomever, I say, what did I learn here? Okay, here's a lesson. Leveled up. Thank you very much. I literally, in my head, I thank them for it. What do most guys do? That girl's a bitch. That guy, that fucking client, he's a greedy motherfucker. No, dude, they're not like this. You just learn a lesson from them and then move on, and you'll thank them for it later on. Can you imagine how you feel differently if somebody rejects you and in your head you say thank you because of the lessons you taught me, versus you say that guy's a fucking asshole? Very different emotional feeling, and that also allows you to stop overthinking.
Absolutely. And when you were mentioning thinking versus overthinking, I want to also put another perspective to it. maybe helps people differentiate the two. One of the things that overthinking does is that you're driven by your limbic system, by your primitive brain, by your not even primitive, by your animalistic brain, basically.
That's
So
right.
yeah, you're driven. You're thinking through your cortex, but you are driven. Your cortex is driven by your limbic system, and it's
That's right.
very emotional, and it has no basis and most likely no truth to your conclusions. But when you're actually thinking properly, it's where your cortex is in charge. It's taking charge. It doesn't have that emotional aspect to it, and probably your reasoning is closer to the truth and eventual result. So yeah, it's a massive difference between the two. And we are all for thinking. I mean, I love it. I like it enough that I'm studying.
Dude, you're a physicist. I mean, your job is thinking.
Precisely. So it's, I'm all for thinking, but not for overthinking, because that's not going to help anybody. And I liked a lot of things that she said, that you actually come and thank that person, because that's very true. Because that's that person helping you indirectly. Of course, maybe it was their intention, maybe it wasn't. It's irrelevant. They're still helping you.
Exactly. The benefit is the same for you. Who cares?
Precisely.
Maybe they freaking hate you. Maybe they really want you dead. Who cares, dude? They're doing it wrong. You got the benefit. Keep going forward.
Precisely. And as for failure, one of my mentors says this, and I really like it. He says, it's Ray Kurzweil. He says, failure is success deferred. You'll get that success later on. It's just deferred with failure. So yeah, that's so coming back to my original points at the beginning of the failure part. It was like, whether you lose or you win on your endeavors, on the thing that you focus on, you're winning anyways. So because if you win, you won. If you fail, you learned, which is actually much more valuable.
Define it, man. Winning equals progress, and whether you win or you learn from your so-called failure, you are winning either way. You're making progress, dude, and that should be your focus, which is why I recommend everyone. If right now there's a guy out there who sent a text to a girl and she didn't respond back right now, or if there's a guy out there who created a lot of great business plans, but the guys are not responding, or if you went to a meeting and the client just said, no, I'm not going to take your project, whatever it is, understand that in the end, you are learning and making progress. Reward yourself for learning, for earning experience. If you're a gamer, you're getting XP points close to a level up. If you want to level up, keep gaining XP points, buddy. And that's going to help you a lot, which is why I believe you want to have that mindset. For the younger generation out there, please stop playing all that goddamn Call of Duty and play some role-playing games where you see how the characters go through a lot of ups and downs and earn experience along the way, level up, and kick ass. And that should be your life. You should live life like a hero who's gaining XP and who's leveling up all the time. No matter what it's still making a great point by gaining experience and leveling up. That's what life is all about.
Yeah. Of course, it's a little bit of a longer trend. It takes a little bit longer than video games, and not to be mistaken.
Trust me, there are some video games that takes 1,000 hours or so. But
That's true. Some games
life is the longest RPG game ever.
Yeah,
probably the best, from my perspective. Probably the best.
Yeah, exactly. So that's actually a very good analogy, because you can treat it like a game in a sense.
Dude, it's very important. It's about perspective, because people take it too fucking seriously. Most people don't understand they're going to be dead. Now, obviously, maybe at some point, technology will allow us to live forever by copying our consciousness or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that life as we know it, the biological, organic life, it's temporary. It's short.
But even that, let's actually talk about that for a minute. Because, well, like, you say forever, but then nobody can come to you and say, I lived forever, because there's time still past this. So you can never say forever. So that's a flawed notion. We may live a long time, but you can never say forever. And even beyond that, like, if you think of life within solar system, eventually the sun will blow out. That's the eventuality. So like 5 billion years from now. That's
just a nightmare. I know.
Yeah. So that's
like, dude, what if in 2 million years the sun disappears, man? That's pretty cool.
And then the notion, the counter to that would be, okay, to go beyond solar system, find
you see, I love that. That's the mindset that says there's always a way.
Precisely.
The sun went down, I make
I
a
find
fucking
another
sun.
star,
I am
man.
the sun, bitch. That's good.
So yeah, that's exactly. You can overthink it. Well, this is probably nothing that people overthink on a day-to-day basis because it's not very immediate. But just as a hypothetical example, you can overthink it. Say, okay, sun's gonna go down, so what's the point? Or you can actually go and explore. So fuck it, I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna find another star, and then
Exactly.
find another star that
That's
has a habitable planet in its star system. Then I'm gonna go find a way to go there. Then when I go there, I'm gonna build everything up. If there are life there, we'll just maybe get to know it. If not, we're gonna breed life. Whatever, man. So that's the point. Yeah, you're right. That's about the mindset, and that's actually a very good conclusion of our spiral here. So yeah, I mean, it's about stop overthinking, be critical, be analytical. That's perfectly fine. Don't overthink. Don't think with the limbic system, and then you will eventually reach the peace of not eventually, even immediately after you do that, you reach peace of mind. That's it. That's as quick as a snap of a finger. As long as you don't overthink for a period of time, you have peace of mind. So yeah, that's about it. But with that, we are coming to the end portion of our show, like always. So let's do a conclusion on this matter. What are your
Sure, for sure.
Yeah, what would you summarize this whole talk to? So if nobody, let me put it this way: if nobody listened to everything we said, right, and you want to get the message out, what would you say right now in like a couple of minutes?
Well, number one, I would like to freaking know why they didn't listen to the whole thing.
I know, right? It's
I'm just kidding. But joke aside,
right.
To put it all in one nutshell, I can tell you this: if you overthink, then it means that you do not have self-confidence. And if you do not have self-confidence, then it means that you are not taking enough action, which means ultimately the key to peace of mind and the antidote to overthinking is one thing and one thing alone, and that is action. Create a life where you're focused on taking action, whatever it may be, and that will allow you to get better results. Because if you keep taking action, two things will happen. Either it works, as in the case of the girl saying, "Oh my gosh, you're the coolest guy I've ever met."
Wow, that was how did you make that sound? Okay, keep going.
I really tried my best, trust me. That was very tough.
Cool.
Or the girl says, "Excuse me, girls like me don't date guys like you, so fuck off."
Right.
So in the first case,
these are the two extremes, basically. That can be.
That's right, of course. In the first case, you did a great thing. Just keep repeating it. In the second case, say, all right, how can I do it differently next time? Create an action plan. Again, don't think about why or what the universe and the nature of all women. What can I do differently next time? Again, focus on action. Thinking should be focused on action. Think on, so what kind of action can I take next time? Then create that action plan and then take action again. And then keep repeating this process until you hit your target. This is a recipe for success. It's called the 4-step success formula, which I have learned from Tony Robbins. Amazing thing. If you're listening to this show right now, please implement this strategy and life will be a wonderful journey.
That's a very good advice, and I agree with the notion that you mentioned. Tony Robbins is for. Yeah, that's a very good way to go about it. Think about how can I do things differently. So think of actions, basically. Yeah, I could agree with that. And with that, we are concluding basically. And thank you, Dan, again for being with us.
It is my pleasure, buddy. Love this conversation. It was a wonderful discussion.
Amazing. Yeah, right here. It's an afternoon. It's a little bit of a on the cold side of the afternoon, 18 degrees Celsius.
What's the temperature now in Toronto?
I believe it's 18 degrees Celsius at this very point.
Oh boy.
And it's
getting cold now. It's getting
3
cold,
p.m.
buddy.
3 p.m. Yeah, this is actually my favorite weather, honestly. This is
good for you.
Yes, this is anything between 10 and 20, more broader, between 0 and 20 is my favorite. I like
cooler temperature than hotter temperature.
Oh
right?
Yeah, I love cooler temperatures. Even if I'm going for, to a cottage or something, I love. The only problem with that temperature is you don't get to go into the water actually. So
awesome.
So if you want to go swimming, that's not
right now. I heard this from you. I'm going to give you a great text for the next girl or for the next thing, or a great pickup line. Go to a girl and says, "Hey girl, do you know why I like cool temperature? And then she says, why? You say, because I'm so hot. That's right. I'm going to help you a lot, man.
Well, I
I
am temperature-wise hot for sure.
No, just don't tell it at all, but just go for it, man. See what happens.
Interesting. Well, I can try. I have nothing to. Well, I have one
That's
person
right,
to
man.
lose potentially, but you never know. Anyways,
Who cares, man?
Yeah,
Either
sure.
you win or you learn, right?
Right, precisely. I'll know that if it works, at least.
Very nice.
But joke aside, thank you again. Thank you for that.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you all for joining us yet again on whenever you're listening to this, whether it's an afternoon, a different year perhaps from today. But nevertheless, thank you for tuning in. We'd love to have you with us. Well, not physically, but hearing us. And until a later time, have a good night.